5:31.
Like to call the meeting to order. It's 5:31.
There you go.
Okay, do we have any additions or deletions to our agenda?
Yes, I'd like to make an amendment to item 6, which is the appointments amendment, and just add emergency management coordinator back to that list.
Okay.
I'd also like to add, will probably become item, we can make it item 11 and public comment on item 12, which will be just the just a brief touch on the Waltham Payton MOU, salt shed MOU with updates.
Okay.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay, so next agenda item is the approval of the minutes from 4/9/25 and the informational hearing on 4/16/25. I would make a motion to approve the minutes from the meeting on 4/9/25.
Okay, we're just looking at them. Hang on.
Okay.
There is a typo on the minutes, and I will correct it. I spelled your name wrong, Teresa. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Do you not want to approve that, Teresa?
My name is spelled wrong most of the time.
That makes 2 of us, just not in this capacity.
Yeah.
Oh.
All right, that was the 16th. Where's Sharon? Sharon, was there a fire? Something down on Jersey Street?
What?
I think was there a fire down there in Jersey? There what?
Fire.
Oh, brush fire.
Looks like it was a station board bill.
Okay.
Up in hill there.
Yeah.
That's where all the cars were parked. I stopped and asked them how they did it.
Okay. Thanks.
And I did provide Teresa a copy.
Okay. Yep. She got it.
I will second Teresa's motion.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Yep. Sorry.
Okay. Was one of us at the informational meeting on the 16th? Was somebody able to come?
That was.
Yeah, I just did Zoom.
Oh, I don't know
Alright.
how to approve those since we can't, I mean,
Informational. It probably doesn't need.
Yeah,
Official.
I mean, technically it was moderated by the town moderator.
Yeah.
Minutes be made available in draft form, and there is a recording on the town's YouTube channel, so.
okay. Okay.
Do we want to do? Can we switch something up? I can. We're hardwired tonight, Kathy.
Pull it out the holder, then you can pass.
I know. We won't reach Teresa. I can toss it to him. Do you want to move up the DRB? So right now we can do AP and payroll. We can push that back if you want to get there, so we don't have to sit through payroll. All right. Switch those. So Teresa, we're just gonna switch. We're gonna do go to the appointments for
Okay.
one DRB. Okay. Was that good? Could you hear me anyway? All right, we got it. Okay, So appointments, you're gonna add EMC, and then Abby's here, talk a little bit about DRB. If
Yes.
Mary wants to comment. Did you have anything you wanted to bring up for the DRB? Okay. Have you two talked at all? Okay. Mary's a good resource, for sure. Mary, when are you officially stepping down? When's that term up?
The only thing I said to Zach was I wouldn't leave you in a lurch.
Okay,
So as soon as our replacements are done, we can do some
okay.
you know,
Yeah, okay. Do you have any questions? Anything random you want to know?
I don't even know what I don't know.
Okay, that's okay. Yeah, and you know Beth, so Bethany's stepping down. I think she's still on it as well until, yeah. Yep. Is that right, Kyle? She didn't give a date, but she said like,
She also agreed that she wouldn't leave us in a lurch, basically.
Okay.
She said that she would stick around for at least several more meetings, to just kind of make sure that there's a quorum and that things are gonna proceed, so.
Is it just you and Bethany? No, it was on Gretchen Bailey, Catherine Davis.
Okay.
And Annie Howard.
Okay. I know two.
2 for 3. And so have you seen like a description, of the role? I mean, that's it's the basics. It's on the website, right, Kyle?
It is on the website, and yeah, I tried to be, I mean, it's pretty wide ranging. I mean, as Mary can tell you, the DRB is kind of involved in a lot of things, because it's also a membership on the planning commission. And so the planning commission will be involved with the town plan, the creation and update of the town plan for 2027. You know, the DRB meets every other month right now. Usually Thursdays, second Thursday, yep. And it's, I mean, Mary can certainly speak to this more than I can, but it's involved in many different aspects. I mean, it's great for people who definitely want to get to know folks, but also participate in the town plan being rewritten by 27 is a pretty important component of it. And the previous DRB folks and current DRB folks have done a great job in the town plan, like rock solid. So we're really happy with that. So.
Do you want to be appointed? Do you have any more questions? Okay, I'll make a motion. Reese, do you have any questions?
No.
Okay. Yeah, and Teresa, I don't know if you've met Abby before. If you had any questions?
I do not.
Yeah. I'll make a motion to appoint Abby Matson for DRB, for the open spot there.
I will second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Congratulations. It's unbelievable.
We are still looking for one more DRB. And
Okay, we'll talk.
it can be, obviously, ideally it would be someone from the town and all that, and, all comers. I posted on Front Porch Forum, and I will probably post in the newspaper next, in Front Porch Forum if I don't hear back from anybody. Because I haven't heard back from anybody yet, so on anything else, so, we're gonna try and really reach out. The quorum is 5 members, the quorum is 3, so with yourself on there, we'll have at least 4 for right now, and so, and then theoretically, if, Mary and Bethany would leave, we'd still have 3, still have a quorum, but not a great quorum, obviously, and you want the full representation, so. Yeah.
Do you know what the next meeting is, Mary?
June,
In June, okay.
we have April meeting, so maybe we can skip, and that's obviously if there's nothing pressing.
Yeah.
We have a March meeting because we need to, so.
Right.
The next regular will be second, June, 30th, or the 12th.
And what time does it normally commence?
6 o'clock.
6, yeah.
Yeah, and I was gonna discuss this a little, there's a component to that meeting as well, that I was gonna discuss as well, a little bit later that, during the updates from the clerk's office.
All right.
Do we wanna do all the appointments now, just skip to this?
Yeah, let's stay on 6.
So one of the easier ones, I guess, to knock out would be an appointment to the Maple Broadband Committee. The Maple Broadband Committee is, I haven't received anybody that's interested in the committee. However, the Maple Broadband Governing Board is made up of members from a bunch of different towns, basically trying to get Maple Broadband to as many homes in that kind of what they call last mile or last house, connection, for maybe broadband. It's pretty, not laid back, but they only meet like once a month, I believe. It's the second Tuesday of the month. They last about 90 minutes, and it's usually just updates and then a business meeting. And they ask board members to attend 11 meetings per year. In the previous administration, Howard sat in this seat, but it could be open to anyone, townsperson or select board member that wants to participate. And they're just looking for kind of as broad a scope of folks to participate as possible.
Yeah.
So if there's anyone interested in either the select board or here today to serve on that board, that would be great. Otherwise, I will put it out again on report form and discuss it.
Yeah, put it back out there and see if we can grab anyone. Keep that one open. When's their next meeting? Do we know?
May 13th. The next meeting will be the May 13th annual meeting, and then every second Tuesday after that. In terms of the other two positions, unfortunately, Sharon had to resign from the emergency management coordinator position, so that position is available again. Part of the reason, and it was my own fault that I didn't explain this properly, was that the town had traditionally had an emergency management director as well. That position had been filled by Howard. The default position is for the state, as far as state legislature is concerned, is the emergency management director. If no one volunteers to take that spot, it defaults to the chairperson of the legislative body, in which case was Howard for several years. I didn't realize that going in. I didn't make that distinction clear, and that's definitely on me. The emergency management director works in conjunction with the emergency management coordinator to kind of, the emergency management coordinator doing the legwork and doing kind of the heavy lifting on many of the things, also being kind of out there in the field. But the emergency management director is perhaps concerned a little bit more with the higher level administrative side of it, perhaps in the more financial side of it, or making sure that kind of holding the purse strings, so to speak, of any expenditures of the emergency management. That's just kind of one read that you could take by reading the state law. I'm happy to fulfill the seat of emergency management coordinator for the time being, considering that I'd really like to get the local emergency management plan done and submitted to the regional emergency management committee and to VEMA and all the other folks that would be interested in it. I have incident command training. I've participated in this kind of thing before, and I've been now kind of helping with this plan since Bob Groff kind of handed it to me a little while ago. So I'd be happy to fulfill that spot for now, and then pass it along to whomever else would be interested in it. I'm just doing it to get the paperwork done, really, and just make sure that all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed.
Yeah, no, I think that made sense. You emailed that over. We probably saw that. It made a ton of sense to have you step in interim. The difference between the EMD then, could the board act as the EMD?
It would be one person on the board. Yeah.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be the chairperson, but it would default to the chairperson of the board if you didn't select someone. Okay. Or there was no vacancy.
So what is the regional emergency management? To me, regional means that like Canton, Waltham, Virgins, all of them have their one person that represents them, and then they choose somebody that's the regional one. But
yeah,
I'm not sure that that's the definition of it.
So I think the regional one is, I don't think that's codified in the state law that I read. I could be wrong about this, but the regional person is basically the default emergency management person from that town. It could be the director, it could be the coordinator. It could be either one of those people. And then once you get to that board, like Bob Groff had served as chair of the regional one in the past, but it's not necessarily a component of it. It's just that you are kind of automatically a member of the regional.
So it's not really a town position.
It's not an appointment. No, it's not a.
So it shouldn't be in that list of appointed positions.
No, it shouldn't be in the list. I guess it's default on the emergency management coordinator when that person's appointed. So you're right, it shouldn't be on that list.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm wondering, is it required that, like other appointed positions, that the city person is a resident of
The EMD or the EMC?
either one?
Okay.
I think that should be checked out. And then I have this that I found. That's not the reason that I have to resign.
Yeah, no, it's fine. You don't have to tell us. Yeah.
I have this information that I did look up, this is from the Vermont Department of Public Safety regarding the classes. You can go up and become a certified EMD, these are voluntary, it's not required, and the classes are open to either or both the EMD and the EMC, and they have the list of how many hours it takes. You know, they like to see people do them.
Yeah.
To get certified, but it's not required, it's a voluntary. Okay, and it is open to both. I had to dig to find out all the details, but I finally found it, so here's the memo.
Yeah, if you want to leave that or send us an email copy, yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah, and part of the EMD is, and this might be contained in some of that, is that there's a, basically, you develop a plan, like who would be in charge of what, given an emergency situation. The emergency management director basically goes through and kind of delegates certain responsibilities to the emergency management coordinator or to another designee that they would set to say, you know, relocate emergency operations center as needed. Does the emergency management coordinator have that authority? Do they have the authority to coordinate for mutual aid with other towns? Do they have the authority to recall personnel in aid in response efforts, things like that? So the EMD it's a slightly more involved position. I was unable to find a previous document on file for the town that listed all these. So I didn't have a basis in which to generate one. So, I mean, we can leave the EMD open for now if you'd like, and
leave the EMD open, and if anything happens that's catastrophic or we need to step in, we'll, you know, we'll build that.
And I think I'll also have a better, now that I'll deal with Harry, who's the regional emergency management kind of representative for Panton. He kind of represents us not at the REMC, but at different levels. There's a lot of players in this game, NEMA and stuff like that. I'll be able to reach out to him and get some much kind of greater context.
Okay. And for now, Teresa, do you have any comments on the EMC opening?
I think the most important thing is that we can kind of manage the paperwork right now. It has to be somebody who's really committed to it. So I think it's better to wait and find the right person.
Are you opposed if we just, for the gap right now, appointing Kyle until we find someone so he can get to work with Bob to carry that out?
Yeah, no, I think that's great. That's amazing. Thank you, Kyle, for doing that.
So let's make a motion to appoint Kyle as the interim EMC coordinator.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
And Sharon, we'll consider that when we post it. Like, ideally, it's someone from town. Ideally, it's someone from town who lives in town. Right now, we've got the interim, but when we find someone, when we look and cast our net, hopefully it's someone from town. Yeah.
I mean, this is,
Yeah.
these residents are not being properly, represented, if that keeps happening, I don't think.
Yeah, it's such a small town. I wish we could have tons of volunteers. That's ideal for sure. All right, thanks, Kyle.
Yeah, thank you.
So is that it for appointments?
That was it for appointments. Yep.
And then, not to swap another one, but do we want to do candidates for select board?
Yeah, I was just going to recommend the same thing. That let's do the introduction, and then we can just do kind of more of our business after that's finished.
That makes sense.
Okay.
If you don't mind, Kirsten Dela Cruz wanted me to apologize and say she unfortunately couldn't be here. She's ill. She said I could say that, and that she's not feeling well. She's homesick. And she would really have liked to be here, but she wasn't even feeling great for Zoom either. So she asked me to read a statement into the minutes so that it would be reflected, which I will do. Hello, my name is Kirsten Dela Cruz. I've been a proud resident of Panton for 30 years, raising my 6 children and managing a small farm. With over 15 years of experience serving on Panton's Development Review Board and Planning Commission, as well as representing Panton on the Addison Northwest School District School Board, I have been actively involved in our community's growth and decision-making. Additionally, I have served as the president of the Virgins Booster Club for the past 10 years. I believe it is essential to stay informed about what's happening in our community and to ensure that residents feel comfortable having their voices heard. If elected to the select board, I will be committed to open communication, advocating for our town's needs, and working towards meaningful, positive change. So thank you very much, Kirsten, and I'm sorry that she's not feeling well.
Feel better.
There are 2 other candidates here tonight for select board, and flip a coin or.
Yeah, go ahead, sure. You want a mic? Does that feel, you can mic drop?
Robert DeGraff, born and raised, in a family farm. Just filling a position that is voided currently, so to be part of the community.
Good. All right, thanks, Rob.
Thank you.
Debbie?
Debbie Grace, I've been in Delaware for 48 years. I just want to clear a couple of things that was in the paper. I am not the president right now of the Lions Club. I'm past president ×2, and I'm going to be vice president again next year. I am not on rescue anymore. I gave them 20 years of service. I'm a lifetime member, but which means I do not go on calls, but I do help them with fundraisers if they need them. I just wanted to get that. So, I've always been around here. First of all, I can't say anything bad about the 2 that are running also. They're both excellent people whoever everybody votes for. It's good choices. I think, you know, any one of us would do a good job here. My background though is, as people here have heard me, I'm not afraid to voice my opinion. And if I see something that doesn't seem right, I let people know. The other thing is, I used to work at the town candy. My husband was road foreman for years. And so I do know a lot about the works of the roads, the equipment, and all that stuff. I'll be honest, don't ask me to write a grant. I will go stand on the street corner and ask people for money, but I'm not good at doing that. But I do know common sense and the things we do and don't need. And I stood in knee-deep water in this town in the middle of the winter with my husband and another selectman to try to save a road because it was going to flood out, and we saved the road.
Yeah.
And to me, I think that's what we got to get back to doing, is preventing problems instead of sitting there with a light on or putting signs up and say, oh, well, we're washed out, we'll just rebuild it. That is my biggest thing about being on the select board, that we got to start getting back to what's right and not what's easy. And if you vote for me, I'm always available on the phone 24/7. And I'll do my best, but like I said, any one of us that you vote for will do a good job. Thank you.
Thanks, Debbie. Yeah, and we appreciate everyone
Thank you.
stepping up for sure. It's great.
And hope that the 3 of you, well, I'll tell Kristen this, but might be available on the 14th, the informational town meeting, 7 p.m. That way, in case we get kind of a slightly larger turnout of some folks who usually don't attend select board meetings, might be able to as well.
All right. Do we want to do? Do you want to do clerk treasurer updates?
If you want to save AP and payroll.
Let's save AP because that's,
Okay.
yeah.
Sure.
Just-
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. As I just mentioned, there's a special town meeting. Everything's going well for that. I will have both the warning for the special town meeting and the ballots ordered this week. Or excuse me, the warning posted, but the ballots ordered. As soon as we discuss one of the issues tonight that is on the agenda later on. The election volunteers, again, if anyone's interested in volunteering for the election, I'll be scheduling a meeting at the BCA, the Board of Civil Authority, as we get closer to the election, and got some folks on that. Passive has agreed to reach out on our behalf and try and collect money from that driver for the Hopkins Road accident. Even though they're not going to cover it, they're still going to act as an intermediary for us, which is great. So they're going to employ more resources than I will be able to marshal, perhaps, to be able to do that, and it takes it off my plate.
Is there any updates? No. Okay.
Not yet. They just took it over like last week, so I
Yeah.
assume it'll be a little while. FEMA update, I'm really happy about this. All the documents have been submitted. Our application has moved on to the next stage. I literally was on the phone with him submitting everything. A random question at the end of the day, but that includes both the West Road Culvert projects and the Panton Road Culvert project, which we have submitted for possible reimbursement for doing that. If we get FEMA money to repair that, we will take away our application from the state, because we have a grant application from the Agency of Transportation for that. So we'll take that one away. If we don't get FEMA money, we still have a grant application out for the state. So we're trying to hedge our bets here and say, okay, who's going to get covered? The culvert project on Panton Road with the FEMA money would be a little bit more. We'd be armoring the bank and doing a little bit more rip wrapping to try and prevent some erosion. But other than that, it would be the same project. I do have working on this now, monthly financial updates from the town. The budget to actual report from the town. The town's doing really well after its audit and all the work that Becky Condon and I have done now over the last several weeks and months. Currently, the town is standing at approximately, get to that last one here, approximately 81% of the budget spent, which is pretty good considering we have about 60 days left in the year. And if you do the math on that, we're right in the ballpark of where we should be for 100%. And in fact, that number will improve if the FEMA money comes back and we get the 87.5% of the 71,000 that we're supposed to get. They won't cover the whole amount. They're only going to cover 87.5%. Until we change the town plan and hopefully update some standards and allow us a little bit more access. This includes one of the APs that you'll be signing tonight, which is the payment for the salt shed loan. It also includes the contract for Virgin's fire department, which we pay quarterly. So yeah, 2 big expenses. We have a couple more big expenses coming up for the town in terms of the payment for the dump truck, the loan payments for the dump truck, which are coming up with both the community bank loan and the MELF loan, which is paid right kind of at the beginning of June, just before the end of the fiscal year. Revenues are up substantially in the non-tax portions, which is great. The interest income part of the whole thing, which was because we switched bank accounts and decided to put everything into a higher interest bank account, is paying off, and our interest income is off significantly. It will be reallocated to the various reserve funds that it has been earning the money, so to speak, because the bulk of the money that has been sitting in the bank is reserve fund money. But it will be reallocated appropriately, but it is a pretty significant, I believe the number is, interest income, 978% above what was budgeted. So yeah, we've earned about almost $6,000 in interest income because of the bank switch this year, which is great. It is tax time. Tax payments are due May 1st. We've had a great response. Everyone's been coming in, participating, talking. It's been great to meet a lot of people that I haven't had a chance to meet yet. So we really appreciate it. We have a new system for both taking tax payments and tracking tax payments that I'm really happy with, and our auditor is really happy with as well, creating a much more extensive level of documentation for our taxes and to be able to track tax payments all the way from when you come in the door to when they go into the bank. And it's a great, great system. One thing I'm not happy about in terms of both of the balance sheet for the town is, unfortunately, there's an error that is kind of carried over from the mistake that happened in December of last year. It was basically a duplication of an entire accounts payable run. And in our effort to fix that, I think that we made it worse. But we've identified the problem. It's just that our accounts payable is showing that we owe $9,000. We don't actually owe the $9,000. It's a duplication of a previous accounts payable run. I'm still working on that. Becky Condon and I have been working on that. It's not real. It's definitely not a representation of our true position.
So fairly easy to correct? Is that
You'd
the,
think so, but it's not. Because we made the error and then corrected it, our correction, for some reason, we don't understand exactly what, and we're working with Nemrick and other people on this to try and nail down how to fix it. It's basically just gonna be we're gonna reverse it again somehow and just get it out of the books. But it's just showing it's entered into the books twice, basically. Other than that, the balance sheet is showing an appropriate level of accounts payable, including our education tax payment, which is going to be $894,949.13, payable by the end of June. Our estimated taxes to be collected by tax period for the second payment is more than 1.3 million. So we should be in great shape. We've already collected a pretty significant portion of that 1.3 million, probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 to 30%. I don't have that number exactly in front of me, but we've collected a good chunk of it so far. And let's see, our budget is down in a number of areas that I'm really happy to report on. Things like highway expenditures. Rick and I have had several extensive conversations on reducing highway expenditures. We've pre-bought some stuff that has really been helpful because the prices increased. We spent time buying it 2 days before, several weeks before we needed it because the price increased 5 days after we bought it by $5 a ton. So, it really saved us thousands of dollars by buying it a little bit early, but it's still, we're reducing expenses as much as we can in every area. And we're really watching the budget in the areas that we are over. We are showing some additions, some overages in the budget, some things that were budgeted either incorrectly or didn't perhaps take into account budget increases. Things like the fire protections contract or the Addison County Sheriff's Department. They're charging us more than we had budgeted for. Yeah. Things like that. We're trying really hard to stay on top of those things. We also incurred additional expenses this year in the town from professional services, having to bring on Becky Condon, having to work with Nemrick, having to bring on accountants to be able to help us kind of untangle and unravel our books. We don't foresee those going forward, but they are going to be some overages this year. We are saving in other areas though, so we're hopeful that, the total budget, the overall budget number looks great in terms of where we're at. So
you think kind of forecasting crystal ball, like 81% right now, 2 months to go, we'll be a little below, it's pretty close.
Probably right in the area. Okay. Yeah. Depending on when the FEMA money comes in.
Yeah.
If they agree that they're going to give us the money and everything's great, but they don't give it to us until after the end of the fiscal year, well then it's not going to be, that'll make it look worse than it actually is, and we'll receive the money into 2026 rather than 2025. So we're also working together with Nemrick and with Becky Condon on end of the year procedures, really kneeling down. A lot didn't happen on June 30th last year that should have happened, and it made our life a lot more difficult this time around. So we're nailing down exactly what we need to do. And in fact, we're probably going to push the close of the fiscal year off several weeks to be able to accommodate what we need to do, which is recommended by absolutely everyone, including our auditor. So, any other particular financial questions? I'd be happy to answer.
No, is Becky still in here?
Yeah, she and I met today. Yeah, we're just delivering the last of the internal control questionnaire. I guess that's another thing I can talk about. So one of the big concerns for both the townspeople and for myself and for the auditors in previous years has been internal controls. The fact that one person is writing the checks, generating the invoice, writing the checks, checking to make sure that the check is written in the correct amount, and then checking to make sure that everything reconciles at the end of the day. That's a big concern. You don't want one person handling all that. Now it's a small office, so it's really difficult to do that. But we've now instituted some policies. Donna and myself have instituted policies, and now having a third person that we're asking to come in and review our material has been great. So Donna generates the accounts payable. I verify the amounts and check to make sure that everything's correct. The accounts are then reconciled at the end of the month by a third party who's not an employee of the town. So we have been able to check a lot more boxes on that internal controls questionnaire this time around than we have in years past, and I'm actually really happy about it.
Good.
Yeah, that's great.
Teresa,
That's really good news.
Yeah, Teresa, you have anything else on budget updates?
No, I'm really very happy to hear that things are kind of falling into line. That's really great. Thanks for all that hard work.
What's the update on the audit? Is there gonna be an audit report before
Yeah,
the end of June?
end of May is when they
End of
told us.
May.
Yeah, it's when they're pretty sure they'll get it to us. Yeah, end of May. We'll have that written out, but we'll have it copies available at the town hall, I'll post it on the website. You'll be happy, you can come down and grab a copy of all that stuff, all the financial statements.
Do they want to come in at all, or they're just gonna give it to us and we kind of report on it?
Yeah, that's the way it usually works. They send it to us. They already did their in-person stuff.
That's fine.
One thing I didn't know, not related to budget stuff, but the post office has continued to lose checks. It's a check a week, if not more, that they're losing now. And I feel really bad for the postal service because they must be really behind, but I mean, big stuff. So we are now moving as many things as we can to electronic payment or to ACH. I spoke with the auditor, I've spoken with FEMA and anyone else who's taking our money basically and saying, what do you need for documentation that's going to be equivalent to a check stub? And they've told me, and it's going to be easy for us to fulfill. But we've moved a ton of stuff into electronic payments, things like insurance, payments for vehicles, suppliers for highway materials, sand and gravel, things like that. Because we just can't trust that the post office is going to get our check there on time. And it's awful, but that's just the way it is. So we're moving towards that in many areas as we possibly can.
Do you have any green updates? Because that'll happen before the next meeting.
Yeah, folks have already been coming in to get bags. There's bags available at the town hall. You're more than welcome to come in and grab green update bags. There's always a roll available. I try to keep it stocked on the rock outside. If you want to participate in anything more on Green Up Day, Paula and Louisa are working on that to just make sure that we're all set, but we've gotten all the bags delivered and everything like that. And we'll still be taking them down to the town garage.
Okay.
And
Awesome.
that's it until some other items.
Okay.
Are we gonna be, is the select board gonna be available on the morning of Green Up Day? We usually do donuts and coffee in the town hall down below as people come in to get bags. Are we gonna do that, or are we not gonna, like, and it's just a curiosity question?
Potentially.
Okay.
Are you May 3rd, Saturday?
I feel like I've got something that day, but I could clarify that.
If you can you reach out to Paula, Kyle, and just so she can send, she might front porch forum it too and just send an update.
She had mentioned it, but she hadn't said to me whether she was doing it or not doing
Okay.
it.
And if she wants, have her send us an email, we can coordinate.
Have we had strong turnout in past years?
It's decent, it's staggered,
Yeah.
but it's nice to be here and
Absolutely.
eat donuts.
And also it's really, I mean, a lot of people do it on their own time before Green Up Day. So we get really good turnout. It's just not always all on Saturday morning.
Right. All right, good stuff. Turkey Lane 911 discussion.
So I believe you have a copy of this, and I think I sent it to you as well, Teresa. The town clerk and treasurer and E911 coordinator, Paul Sokol, met on the morning of April 16th to discuss the issue of the misnumbering of Turkey Lane. This has been kind of kicking around for a little while. Paul was away for the winter. He's now back. The situation developed after a resident was talking about his mail not being delivered properly, and so it kind of kicked off this thing where the E911 board noticed that the road is numbered incorrectly based on north-south positioning, because they do it by GPS location, north-south positioning, and the road kind of goes in two different directions. The 911 addresses are established in part using GPS coordinates, which locate specific places on the earth. And at some time in the past, that property had confused the two addresses for which one was the residence and which wasn't. The owner of the property has the correct number of what it should have, and the other property is numerically above what he is, which shouldn't be because he's also north, so it should have gone the other way. So Paul Sokol and I talked about this at length and kind of researched it, and basically kind of stipulated and make the following suggestion: that the town has the legal and adjudicated authority over Turkey Lane from where it intersects Lake Road to the high water mark of Lake Champlain. This road is known internally as Town Highway 11. Turkey Lane, the private road, as it deviates from Town Highway 11, is a private road, and the town does not maintain, plow, or otherwise care for that. It is proposed that the town right-of-way that exists past the turnoff from the Turkey Lane private road be renamed and exist as a separate road in the town's road inventory. A new street sign would be installed, which clearly identifies it and would allow for only one E911 address to require a change. That's the cabin that has the issue. This would also allow the town to manage this section of road separately, and as it's unimproved right now, would allow for specific grant or other funding and levels of maintenance. So the road that exists down to the high water mark of Lake Champlain is basically a trail. It's not actually, it's a road, it's a town right of way, and there were plans in the past to make it into an accessible place, but there's no set plan. The town just has an adjudicated right to it. So the suggestion that the E911 coordinator was, because anything else would require address changes for a bunch of people, this would only require not even an address, it's just a mailing address change, not even a real address change, it's just an E911 address change at that of a property, because the cabin concerned in this is on John Biscuit's property.
Okay.
So this would mean basically that no one has to change their address, everyone gets to stay the same numbers in the same way, they all get to be Turkey Lane, and the right of way that exists past down to the high water mark of Lake Champlain from the turnoff of the private road, the town could hold a naming contest to see names, they could take suggestions, they could see what it would be, you know, whatever would be reasonable, but this would be the least pain to the least number of people.
Have you talked to John Biscuit? Yeah.
About this? No.
Okay.
Paul.
I'm just kidding. Paul has?
Yeah.
Paul's copacetic, or is it?
Paul and Rick Klucher we've all talked about this plan. Rick's behind it because it also involves the least amount of change. John wouldn't have to change his address. Dr. Biscuit would not have to change his address, which is kind of really what we've done here, is really focused on that to make sure that no one on Turkey Lane is going to have to change their address. It's a time-consuming process, and obviously these days it's really annoying. And so this would be
just as long as he's talking with Paul, then.
Yeah, he's talked to him about it for sure. Yeah.
Not a surprise. Yeah, Kathy, go ahead.
So how does this help the post office deliver the mail?
Because the cabin, the only house that exists on Turkey Lane, whatever it's going to be call it Town Highway 13 right now, for instance. The only house that exists on Town Highway 13 is going to be that one cabin that's on John Biscuit's property. It's going to have a separate E911 address that he can receive mail at. The tenant who lives in that cabin.
Yeah, go ahead.
Changing any status of the road from trail to?
Not at this time. It's a town right of way, but it's not right now. It's the adjudication as to whether or not it was a legal trail versus a road versus, you know, that was a little less. It was a little less clear. It's just gonna, for right now, it's not. It's just gonna be a separate town right of way.
So you rename it that one place?
Yeah. As long as it's past the intersection. Yeah. Because at that point you couldn't like stop in the middle of the road and name it past that, but because it's at that intersection, that's the greatest opportunity, is to be able to name it past that.
Okay, so what's the next step? Do you need a motion or anything to? Oh, sorry. Yeah, Sharon.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that I happened to talk to John Biscuit the other day. He was a little shocked that this was on the agenda and nobody had talked to him yet. He couldn't believe that they had not contacted him with whatever they were coming up with.
Yeah.
He important enough to talk about this Selectboard meeting. Did really sit too well with them.
That's what I was asking if Paul had talked to him.
Paul has been in contact.
Okay.
And
He went over once and it was not like that pleasant. And so that's the only time that John said that he contacted him, basically knocked on the door and said, now, I don't know what was said, but I got the basic gist of it.
Yeah.
That was the only time he could contact.
Yeah, and that's why, yeah.
Contacted him, any solution or any discussion that has happened since then, and that was.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
I'm just letting you know that it would be a good idea to talk to the owner of the property before you make decisions about their property. You know, he does own the property.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. it's a
I
good
mean,
point.
the reason that this was the kind of the best
The
of
path,
all possible worlds here, the best path forward, is because no one would be affected by this besides an E911 address, which wouldn't change any legal designation.
Well, I would
of anyone's
say,
property.
right, I mean, I think it makes sense from our standpoint. I would say, if reach out to John again, Paul, maybe, and just say, we can push this off to the next meeting? I mean, we don't need to make a call tonight,
My thought as well.
unless
Sure.
you think it's like,
No,
I mean, what's the,
the state has talked to us about this, so the E911
Yeah.
board is aware of this and wants
okay,
some clarity on it, because in their mind, it's a safety issue.
yeah,
The only thing that I would maybe ask the select board to do then at this point is ask for suggestions for new names. That way we.
May I,
yeah, go ahead, Tracy.
I just have a question, like, if this is what's been recommended by the E911 coordinator based on all the information he has, and he has spoken to Dr. Viscup, which the question is there anything that, I mean, if Dr. Viscup, if John doesn't want this to happen, but it has to happen, I don't know that I think we're doing due diligence here, and whether or not Dr. Viscup is happy or not, and I don't mean to sound callous, it's because it's not affecting his address, and it's something that we're being asked to from outside of the town. I'm not sure if he's not happy about it. I'm not sure that there's anything that we can do about that. So hang on, Sharon.
Yeah, hold on.
So my question is if this is something that the E911 people have asked us to do, I'm not sure that we can say no. That's all that I'm going to put. And I'm not, because if he's going to be upset because we have to do this, then that is in itself its own thing, right? He is going to be upset whether we do it. If he doesn't want us to do it, and that's what's going to make him happy, then we're kind of at an impasse here, and we actually have to go with the request of the E911 coordinator.
How long has it been going? Like, when did the E911 contact us that it was an issue? I know we've talked about it a little bit.
A couple months ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, a couple months. It was before the beginning of this, it was just around the beginning of January, I think.
Mhm.
I believe that was it. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't disagree, Teresa. I think it's a good point. But I think the fact that it's been a couple months to have until we have another meeting with John, just because it is his property, if he does have a concern, like, I'd like to have him be able to.
I agree with Zach. I would at least like to, give him a chance to speak with us, and if we're at an
Okay.
impasse. But
Yeah, I think you're right, Teresa.
I just don't know. I mean, I'm not sure that if it's not going to make a difference either way. I just want to make sure that we're going to be in compliance. In compliance with the E911 and their requests. That's all.
So I would say when you talk with E911, just say the town board would like to give the owner a chance to speak. He potentially feels he's being quickly brushed through. And so just say that's our holdup for the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. No, I think that's a good solution.
a little bit more public comment, Debbie.
Yeah, Debbie.
I'm just curious about this. So cabin is on John's property and he rents it, so that needs a separate address. Is that?
That's right. It's not John's address, it's his. Yeah.
It's fine. At 20 years of rescue, it's not uncommon to have an address as house 23 and house 23 and a half.
Okay.
Very simple, just, and that's what we're talking about, just a simple thing.
But again, if those rules have changed, Debbie, and I hear you and I don't disagree, but if those rules are coming from somewhere else asking us to change them, it's not like we can just unilaterally make a decision to do it differently. Because if the 911 coordinator stuff is coming from the state, we can't just say we're going to do it differently here because they're asking us to be in compliance with that. I agree. Sometimes these things are way too complicated, but I don't think we get to make the rules here. I could be wrong.
Yeah, but I also just a citizen of town, because it's his property, say, well, I'd like John, if he wants to rename, like, I'd feel more comfortable than having the town come up with something. I don't know.
No, I would too.
If he wants to. That's a thought.
Yeah, I'll
I think that's a good idea.
ask Paul to reach out.
Okay.
Sharon?
Yeah, just one more thing, I mean, just out of common courtesy, I think John should be contacted again, and so he doesn't feel like this is being forced on him, because I think that's how it feels. This is being forced on him against his will.
Yeah.
And I think he should be brought into the conversation just as a common courtesy, it is his property.
Well, that's what we were doing, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
No, I
simple.
agree.
And then I would also like to suggest a name for that road part is Shawnee Shores.
That's what it is.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
always been known, and there's a sign already down there that says Shawnee Shores. The Nishas gave the name because it was their former church.
Okay,
And that is the name that John himself had suggested. He said apparently nobody was listening at the time, so I'm re-suggesting it so that it's, first in line.
yeah, all right, well, we're gonna give John the opportunity to speak to that. Is that okay? Like, just say that's kind of where,
Yeah, I'll talk to Paul tomorrow.
yeah,
Yep.
okay.
You need a motion to table that to the next meeting?
No,
Okay.
so, just as long as we know, and I mean, if anyone else has any names, basically.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, just so that we're forearmed here, just in case he says, I don't care, he says, this is fine.
Yeah, I would say, tell Paul, like, we're gonna need to rename it soon.
Yeah.
We're gonna, so if he wants a part in that.
Okay, yep, I'll talk to him tomorrow.
Okay, so let's move on to the passive grant revision.
Say one more thing as far as the 911 goes. If you punch in my address for my house, people go to the next door because it's wrong.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of 911 addresses that are wrong around here. You punch in somebody's address in here, and you will find out with either the house before or the house after. So just be careful what can of worms are opening up.
We'll take care of them as they come, I guess, yeah. Do as much as we can.
Yeah, I am involved in trying to.
Yeah, okay.
I made a mistake on the passive grant. They needed a $200 minimum to be able to pay half. So they want the bill to be more than about $400 so that they could pay half. Their contribution would be $200 because it's a half. The thing I quoted before, which was the drill press guard, which the select board approved last time, would only result in $170. So I just needed something else to be able to reach that. And I was just recently got the cameras set up downstairs again, and this camera too, actually, working properly, and made sure that the data plan on them was correct, and realized that the town really doesn't have an exterior camera for the town hall. I found one at the same company that would utilize the same data plan and the same network backup cloud storage for the data that's solar powered, and that could be mounted on the exterior of the town hall. And it would be kind of aimed down and towards the doorway entrance and the parking lot area, and kind of probably catch a little bit of the parking right across the street as well. I think that'd be a really good idea for exterior. We have the interior cameras, but an exterior camera would be a great idea. And this is something that's covered under the passive grant because it's an improvement for our insurance purposes. The total on that would be $116, of which the town would have to be responsible for half of that. So approximately another 50 or 68. So, or 58, 58. So I would just ask that the select board approve the passive grant to include the addition of that camera, so that it falls me up over that $200 limit, so that we can actually take advantage of the grant in the first place.
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
Okay. Go ahead.
To approve the new wording in the passive grant to include that.
I will second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And go right on through?
Yep.
Great.
Charter amendment language.
So based on the charter amendment hearings, and thank you everyone who participated in them, we learned a lot, and we also were able to get answers to questions. So there was a lot of confusion and potential for confusion around the specific section that the select board had wanted to include in the charter amendment. And so, section D read that, the officers shall be removed only if at least as many registered. The question was, did that take the total number of people in the town who voted in the election, or the total number of people who voted in favor of that person? The issue brought up by folks in the town was that it was not clear. The issue, as I understood it, was only because it had been included in previous town charter changes. I contacted VLCT, I reached out to them, they said, we can't give you a definite answer because it's never been tested, there's no precedent before. And so, usually in cases like that, and this is a situation where, usually in cases like that, you want to be more specific. So the concerns brought up by the folks at the charter hearings, excuse me, were always extremely valid, but are now even have more validity. And so I'm recommending to the select board that we change the language in section D to read as follows. The officer shall be removed only if at least as many registered voters of the town vote to approve the petition as voted to elect said officer in the most recent election wherein the officer was elected, or at least 1/3 of the registered voters of the town vote, whichever is fewer. The lawyer at VLCT approved this language, said this would accomplish exactly what we were looking for, and it would remove any ambiguity about the issue from the question at all.
Yeah, do you want to see this? You can read this one. So,
I just have the one that was encouraged.
I think that reads clear, yeah.
Yeah, there's no ambiguity about it. I mean, it's as voted to elect said officer in the most recent election wherein they were elected, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good change. Thank you for getting that clarified.
So the way that this works is that if the select board approves this, votes to approve this change right now, a copy of this will be officially received by the clerk and installed in the office with the original as amended. And this would appear and have to be warned around town that this change is going to be made. And then this is the copy, this amended copy, the approved amended copy that we're talking about right now would be what appears on the ballot. And that's the process for that. But it just tracks the changes.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so do you need a motion to approve this new language? Is that what is that where we start?
Yeah.
Okay, so I would make a motion to approve this new language.
Yeah, I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
It is a little bit fair that way, and it's quite clear.
Yeah, it's a little more clear than.
It's not being an ass high.
Yeah, so I was happy to get that.
Get lawyers involved, and I know it can get.
Well, free lawyer.
It's one of those things.
Yeah,
There's that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Kyle.
Yeah. Do you want to do AP and payroll or?
Yeah, we can do one other thing. Did we have an update? I forget, we skipped
Oh,
over.
yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think I handed you a copy.
Yeah.
I spoke with Rhonda, and the suggestions that you all generated and I took down at the meeting to basically incorporate the new language of what those changes would be. Basically saying, it was several of them were pretty kind of insubstantial. That Waltham agrees to provide Canton with a copy of the quoted improvements and timeline of those improvements. Just some change to make sure that it was specified that Waltham would be responsible if any damage was caused by Waltham, not just damage incidental. The termination of the agreement was one of the things that there was a little bit of discussion on. And so I added item number 10 to this MOU, which says that if this agreement is terminated by either party, Canton agrees to compensate Waltham for the cost of improvements to the salt shed in the amount that would be reflected in Canton's annual depreciation schedule for the structure on the date of termination. This compensation would occur no later than 120 days after the date of termination and will not exceed the total of the original investment by Waltham. Canton will provide a copy of the depreciation schedule to Waltham, for Waltham. I spoke with our auditor and the firm that's compiling our depreciation schedules. She said this was a perfectly reasonable thing. The depreciation schedule would be generated immediately upon the improvements being done to the structure, and then would continue to depreciate over a number of years. And so the original investment, I think they were talking about, was in the $13,000. So it would start at 13, depreciate out over 15 years. And then at every year, if the agreement was terminated, we would pay them the amount that the depreciation was. The additional significant change was the length of the agreement and termination of the agreement. I believe that Teresa and some other folks have talked about this being adopted, reviewed by Peyton each year for the first 3 years, and the date being the yearly anniversary of its adoption. And the agreement will remain in place until superseded by another MOU, terminated by either party, or any change in Waltham's highway contracted services not approved in writing by the Payne Select Board or their duly authorized representative. That language was particularly suggested by the Waltham Select Board, as they said, well, we don't need, if Payne's road foreman changes, we don't need to redo this agreement. But basically, we're giving Payne the ability to say, if there's a change in the contracted services in Waltham, you guys get to choose whether or not to terminate this or change this agreement, and that's fine by us. Or you could nominate the new road foreman or whoever to sign off on that. The additional change was the timeline. One of the things mentioned was we don't want to do it, you know, we wouldn't want to leave them in the lurch, or it was discussed that we wouldn't necessarily want to. Termination of this agreement occurs between or during any time from October 1st to April 1st. Waltham will not be required to move their materials from the salt shed until April 1st, giving them time to kind of just finish out their winter, figure out their own situation, and still be able to, you know, handle their situation and then, you know, accommodate that.
Okay.
I'm not proposing this necessarily for the select board to approve right now. I'm just saying that these are changes that the Waltham Select Board is going to review at their next meeting, just like I'm describing to you. And so this is just stuff to think about, but this is their first draft that they returned to us after all our comments, including our comments to them. And this is kind of the distillation of all that. So I think it reads really nicely, and it seems to reflect everything's, all the legal, insurance, and auditing requirements necessary for a good document to succeed.
I agree. I think it's straightforward and clear for everybody involved, so.
Yeah,
Was a
agreed.
question as to why we wouldn't want to lease the building to them instead of using an MOU. The lease requirement wasn't favored by either the road foreman or Panton's or Waltham's contracted services, for the reason that it would, the permanence of a lease, making Panton a landlord of a lease, adds another level of kind of complications to the legal structure here. This MOU already reads as a lease would, but allows for kind of more control, because leasees have certain legal rights that exist beyond just lease agreements that are in between two parties. And so I think it was kind of agreed upon by the road foreman that they didn't want a permanent lease. They wanted an MOU that was a little bit more nimble and adaptable, and that could be reviewed by the select board and the road foreman as needed in the future. So.
I agree. Deb?
Yeah, again, with this whole thing, I personally disagree, because here again, what are we getting out of it? Nothing. Other than somebody using that building, which is not safe. If you put siding on, have any of you actually gone and looked at the building? I stopped there the other night and looked it over. That building is not safe. Tear the building down, they can put an A-frame over it or something, which would be better. But we're not getting nothing out of this. And what is, you know, anything happens, and like he said the other night, well, if it falls down, I'm covered, I'm underneath the cover of the loader. But what about it's our loader? What are we getting from this? Are we getting checks from Waltham for the use of the loader? But what about the fact that we're storing their sand? We have to pay for that building. We, you know, we could not use that building, and the road foreman said that building could not be used under no circumstances, and none of you were here during that time when he told us that. And now he's going backwards because it's a buddy of his, and he wants to be a good person. I hope you wait until you get 5 members on this board, and somebody goes and looks at that building, because I'm telling you, we're setting the town up for problems. And I even talked to people, that's friends of mine, that are in the town. I have a problem with somebody who is not a resident of Waltham telling a person who is not a resident of Canton For the two of them to be working together on what they should be spending the two towns' money on. I think it's a big mistake. We're opening up a can of worms and it's gonna come back and bite us.
All right, I appreciate it, Debbie. I think
Thanks, Debbie.
we covered, right? Like, we're gonna have a contractor with language to look at the building, assess it, and approve it to be usable. There's one. And there's also like the rate that we get from them using the loader. Financially, we do pretty well with this contract.
Oh, we want another, the foreman wants another new loader. Well, if Walter wasn't using it, we would have twice as length of this loader. So why are we going further in debt for somebody else to use our equipment? And I'm telling you, we're not getting nothing out of this.
Okay.
We're just, and Waltham really isn't either because it's their contractor who's getting the use of everything, who should be providing his own.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thanks, Debbie.
Yeah, did you just say that you had a structural engineer look at this building?
Part of the language of the MOU, am I right? It was gonna be the one doing work on the upgrades. One of the specifics is gonna be them approving structurally the building. We're gonna have language in there to have that officially done.
I remember sitting here.
Yep.
Being told when they wanted to build a new salt shed, we were told that that old shed was ready to fall down, that it was not safe, and that is why we needed to appropriate money to do that.
So,
That happened.
Part of the reason why we needed to have a new salt shed was the volume of salt that we store, which is much greater than Waltham's, and that was part of it.
That one worked for
And
years.
an additional reason is that, again, if they determine that the building's not structurally sound and would require more than significant work, they don't have to, Waltham won't necessarily be agreeing to this anyways, so.
Yeah.
But we're not paying for somebody to look at the structure, correct?
No,
No, man.
No, it's Waltham's dollars.
I advise everybody to stop in there and look at it.
Field trip. Okay, anything else on the MOU?
no, that's it, just,
So let's
you
wait to
guys
hear
have
what they
copies.
say. Yeah, we have copies.
Yep, so just review it and let me know if you have any thoughts, and we'll take it up at the next appropriate interval.
Okay. Let's do, since we're on the roll there, we do public comment and then we'll finish up with AP. Is that fine? Okay, and then you can stay and want to just sign papers or not, but we'll do public comment right now. Yeah, Mary?
Just a question, you can hear the,
I'm very sorry.
yeah, no.
Thank you for reminding me, I appreciate it, yeah. So what Mary's referring to is that the DRBPC has proposed new zoning regulations, or new ordinances, excuse me, for the town for the eventual kind of, it's a long process. So what's happened is that the DRBPC has brought up two different changes basically to the current ordinances. One would allow the zoning administrator to issue, and this is based on language that was taken directly from Virgins, was taken from the city of Virgins, to allow the zoning administrator to issue civil fines basically for zoning violators. The other was a noise ordinance that was going to be specific to all kinds of different noises, whether it be construction, parties.
Well, yes, we have
Yes.
an existing noise ordinance, it's very unspecific, and it says 70 dBs of the property line max. That's, and it excludes agricultural use, that's important, but there have been a number of problems with that because construction regularly exceeds that, and bulldozers, anything like that. So we put in hours that were acceptable, maintaining the 70 dB, but recognizing that, you know, sometimes that's not always possible. If you've got to be blasting, it's going to be louder than that, but it's not going to be a long duration. We pretty much copied the language from that part of it. So legally, I think we're okay. Unfortunately, the lawyers got back to me after 3 months, so we just decided we needed to move forward.
Yeah. Well, so the part of the process is that there's going to be a hearing, and as a component of the next DRBPC meeting, there will be a hearing on these. Once that hearing is completed, the process will move to the next step, which is that the DRB PC submits these to the select board, it's the final legislative body for the town. And the select board themselves will rule on, hold their own hearing. And again, there's kind of a timeline to this that I can lay out I'll generate the timeline and lay it out in more detail. The select board will have their own hearing, and then it will be voted on by the select board, and if approved, will be adopted after a period of, I believe it's 60 days. By the legislative body. The hearings will be warned in the newspapers, they'll be warned in all the local places, but they're officially have to be warned in the newspaper and things like that, so. But yeah, so the first one will be at the meeting on June, yeah, and then the next one, so after that, it will go to the select board, and then there will be a hearing then, and then it will go past that. So I'll have a timeline generated as we get a little closer, it's just, Mary and I were working on getting the, we're just waiting on a couple other things.
Was there a particular target for the noise?
70 decibels at the property line.
No, what's causing the noise?
It excludes agricultural, but everything else is included. Anything else would be covered.
Automobiles?
Yep.
Guns,
Yep.
automatic.
It's not an inclusive list, it basically just says, noise, but excluding agricultural use, because of that's a state statute.
So in other words, we can't hunt them down there now because their guns might be too loud.
Well, so that it really is aimed at dealing with constant jackhammering for months on end, all 7 days of the week. It's trying to strike a balance between letting people enjoy their property and not infringe on people that want to build a garage on the weekend, because you build it yourself. So we try to strike a balance. That's why we're gonna have a hearing. I mean,
Yeah, because
it's not trying to exclude hunting.
but like people on the 4th of July that does fireworks, you're not gonna do that.
Well, remember that right now what happens if there's an egregious abuse, which we've had a couple of, there is no way to enforce it. All you can do is call the sheriff, who won't show up for a noise. That's all you can do. Or the state police, who won't show up for a noise complaint.
Personally, I hear on the stand, very numerous times when they go into places because of a loud party, and they say, okay, you gotta cut the party down, you gotta light it down. I'm just thinking, who's gonna police this?
Well,
And
that's
where's
why
the line drawn?
it's gonna have to be something that the zoning administrator can actually observe. So a loud party on Saturday night at midnight, he's not gonna do that, he's still call the police. But if there's somebody doing with a building permit that is violating this, he'll be able to observe it and issue a civil penalty. The civil penalty is a bigger issue than just noise. Right now, we have no way to enforce anything. Unless the town takes the action to take the zoning violation to environmental court, which is expensive. This will give us that piece of.
It just gives them the right to enforce it.
Well, the right to enforce it, but you gotta have somebody complain about it.
It's already a state noise.
They already state law.
There's already a town noise ordinance.
That's why it's like from just on, can't make a lot of noise. It's already a statute.
Most places it's 11 o'clock.
It says in the statute.
Mistake.
Yeah, it's state law. Yeah.
Okay, thanks,
Was there
Mary.
anything else, Mary, on that? I apologize for missing it, but yeah, so that's the process. It'll be made clear as we move further and further down.
Okay.
that road.
Anyone else, public comment? Kathy?
I would like to remind the select board that at town meeting, it was brought up that the select board should be looking at different health insurance plans. And I want to remind them that they should be looking at that.
Okay.
So that we don't have the surprises that we had last year.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Sharon?
Yep. Regarding this request by the Borsville Farm to the water department, to the water company for an easement to run a pipe into Arnold Bay for runoff. I don't know if the town has considered that they are also gonna have to ask for an easement across the right of way. Because doesn't the town own that road down to the Arnold Bay?
I don't know what specifically,
City of the water district owns
yeah,
most of it.
I could look, for sure, because I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, but you don't plow down. It's the water district that plows down.
Owns the road?
I believe
Yeah, but the
so.
town has to have a right process for the public to go right.
There would be, like, theoretically a right of way, yeah, we could look at that for sure.
I mean, I don't know that the water department is gonna say yes or no, but I mean, obviously, I think they should say no, because I think the massive Pandora's box if we don't approve it, it would just be crazy. It's crazy that they're asking. But, just to be, on the safe side, I think the town needs to be sure that they don't need to also come to the town and ask for permission from the town for something like that. I haven't seen the map, I haven't seen the drawings, I don't know where.
I haven't either, yeah.
I don't know where exactly they're talking about running this line. I do know that the last meeting, and I asked Kathy about it, I said, what's this, it's in the minutes. They're now offering the water department an easement on some of their land for a septic system. So a water department septic system would be on Borstville land, which is uphill. And they want, in exchange for them wanting to run a direct discharge pipe into Arnold Bay, which is our drinking water.
Just to point out, the drinking water, the drinking does not come from Arnold Bay. The intake is now over a quarter mile in the Broadway in 45 feet of water. Mid-cut. It's nothing to do with Arnold Bay. It's in the Broadway.
You mean further out from the
From the
narrow
point,
part of Arnold Bay?
it's out toward New York.
Okay, well, fine, but adding more runoff into that place is still going to affect the water. No?
No,
I don't want to find out more.
I ran the water district for 7 years. Okay,
All I know is that in the last 10 years, our water, we've been getting, in the last 3 or 4 years, we've been getting water notices that are telling us that we have harmful chemicals in our water. that are
Disinfection byproducts.
Pardon?
Disinfection byproducts.
Yes, from the amount of chlorine that we have to use to disinfect the water to get it to come out of our
Water is the lake right now is clearer than it was when I was superintendent. 15, 18 years ago.
Then how do you explain the algae?
Algae,
From water not moving, from not letting boats come in faster and stuff. You
Well,
gotta move that water.
I'm going by the information that I get from the water notices. So, and what I've seen going on over there over the last 10 years, I'm watching. I used to go over there all the time. It was quiet and peaceful and nobody was ever there. Now it's like Disneyland, I mean, there's people and barbecues and beer and, all this crap,
that's a different issue.
Well,
Yeah.
it contributes, people in the water contribute to the water quality, boats, all that stuff contributes to the decline of the water quality.
Actually, one was that when I was at the water, they were raising heat down right there next to the road. And right down here, and wherever you were, you overflow like directly into the water, drainage, right through.
I've seen the pictures, you can look at the drone shots where they've got a steady stream of brown water coming out of the Arnold Bay into the next base house.
Yeah, all right, I appreciate it, and I think, and if you have any water insight as well, Kathy, we'll lean on you too.
I can't speak to it very
Okay.
much, I've been. There's lawyers involved.
Yeah, right, that's fine, fair.
But it's not, what we're hearing, what's being said today is nothing new that the Water District Board has not heard.
Okay. All
I
right.
just wanted to make, aware if they come here also.
Yeah, we'll be in communication with them and make sure it's all above board. Any other public comment? No? Teresa? Ready?
Nope, not me.
All right, we'll do, thanks for coming, everyone. We'll do some AP payroll and warrants right now.
Just the ones that I wanted to know again, you'll find it in here, is the payment for the salt shed and the payment for the fire department.
Okay.
Those are the,
And the salt sheds, that's like a new
the
or?
loan for the salt shed, we have a 10-year line of credit with that, like, very, like one payment a year.
That's why, okay.
Yep, sorry.
That makes
Twenty-
sense.
Sorry.
Like,
yeah.
what do you mean? Don't we pay every month? No.
27,000 for the line of credit, and we pay about 6,000 in interest.
Got it.
I kind of like this at the end, pal.
Yeah, I
That
see.
way, 'cause it's like, I don't like to stare. Maybe Reese has an opinion on that.
No, nobody wants to see my spinning bald head, so.
So my initial, just looking at it, the town does have a right of way. Adamsbury Road technically goes all the way down to the bottom of the cul-de-sac.
Okay.
So I guess, there would be, concern.
I would assume we do. And if it's something that is,
If they need to cross it, for sure, if they're gonna put a pipe in underground, I would be very surprised if the water district lets them, but.
I know, I was sort of hoping Kathy could share some more information on that.
I'm assuming that there's some wheeling dealing going on.
Did everybody leave?
Yes.
yeah, but we're still recording.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Taking
I-
minutes,
Okay.
not theoretically, actually, for the people who are gonna watch this later.
Mm. I
How's
just
that?
couldn't,
We get some views,
Do we?
The most popular video is still the one where Howard leaves abruptly.
What?
You must have dogs.
oh gosh, I was hoping the one where I left abruptly was the one that was gonna overtake him.
When did you leave, Teresa?
On a day that you weren't there, so the whole meeting came to a stop.
I need to do that now. Reese needs to.
I just did it. I did it because I was just like, it was a bad day and I got there and it was just like being under attack. And I was like, you know what? No, I'm over it today.
I also want to give Reese a taste of what you and I used to do, Teresa. Like, this would be the meeting.
Yeah, this is
Clerk
awesome.
and us three.
Not that I don't appreciate it.
Still being recorded.
No,
So-
I understand. They can listen to that, but I'm saying,
Well,
like,
like-
the
yeah.
contract.
Well,
you're-
I just sent you guys a text, but I just want to like just bring up something that we had a conversation about at one point, which is a select board meeting is people get to watch what we do, right? And all of the constant input and interruptions, like all of that should be during public comment.
Yeah, yeah.
And the only way we can make that be like that, like we're supposed to conduct business and they can keep reminding us that we're supposed to look at health insurance and we get to say thank you for your comment. But there's so many reasons why we're not going to talk about that right now, and they can keep reminding us. But I think that these meetings last as long as they do because it's this constant Q&A during the whole meeting. And if we decide as a board that we want it to run like that, we can do it this way, but that's not officially how a select board meeting is supposed to run. The people who attend are supposed to be observers, and then they make comments and ask questions during public comment.
Yeah, no,
So
I
I
Completely.
I agree with you.
That's part of the rules of procedure that I proposed was the codification of that particular.
And maybe we just need to remind folks, with so much change in the board recently, that we are here to listen to their concerns and such, but just let's keep it under public comment.
Well, and that we just trying to keep the meeting moving because, we have people who have a lot of ideas, good and bad, right? Who want to be heard, and that's all fine. But like we were sitting there waiting for 5 or 6 minutes while Bob Moulton and Sharon Ashcraft are having a back and forth about something that had nothing to do with us. Right. And that doesn't need to happen during meeting time.
Or is this just an addition to her timesheet? Is this an addition to her timesheet?
It's an addition to her timesheet.
Got it, okay.
Yeah.
So we've got her timesheet also captured in her payroll warrant.
Yeah,
Okay.
her payroll is done through payroll, her mileage reimbursement is done through accounts payable.
Got it.
So like, the expense accounts for the individual employees, so that we don't have to do with all of your tax. You know, they have to delete the taxes and all that stuff.
Okay.
Because it's just expensive.
Yeah, no, that's what I meant by my comment earlier, Teresa, is it feels like when it's just a little more settled here, we can move along.
Yeah, I just think that, you know, if we're, as long as we're all thinking the same thing, we can address that and just, you know, say, you know, now that we're getting this new board on, we're getting the whole new board structure, and just make it an agenda item and just talk about the fact that it's not that we don't want to hear it, but a lot of what goes on doesn't need to be during the meeting time. You know, to be more efficient and more, you know, aware of and respectful towards people's time, that we don't.
Childcare contributions, just for my information, is the town covering those? If you put that back to the employees?
No, we have the option to, the town has the option to cover all of it, or ask the employee to cover some. And the town covers all of it. It's calculation is pretty small, 0.004 cents or something like that. Exactly.
That one to you.
So, you know, we're good having 2 signatures on here.
Yeah, Teresa,
Now that the 3
I'll
is-
maybe see you tomorrow and you can sign the rest of these.
Yeah, I can come in and sign them tomorrow.
What?
I can come in and sign them if you need my signature on them.
Okay.
I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
I mean, when you get a chance, it's.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
have time tomorrow, so I'll come in at some point in the morning.
I won't, yeah, okay. No, that's fine. Donna will be there. I have a meeting in the morning in Virginia. Oh, there's the cleaning.
Okay, I was gonna say, remind me when.
Yeah. She cleans the town hall, and she does a pretty nice job downstairs.
So obviously somebody's doing something.
Yeah, no, she does a good job. Well, Kat does a really good job with pest control, otherwise it's just swarming with flies. If there's vacuum, like once a week at least, even in between, Lynn coming in.
Box elder bugs like wild at my house. They're in the sills and like everything. Yeah, we've had some residual ones kind of like come alive, it feels like.
Keep this on him, just the EMC.
And Kyle, I just wanted to let you know, I am getting the ambulance service emails, and I'm planning to go to that meeting.
Great, yeah, I was, I can talk to you about it tomorrow if you'd like.
Okay, that'd be great. What time is your meeting? I mean, it'd be good if I come in and we could have a conversation. If you're not going to be there, I'll just come in at a different time.
So I'll be in the office until 10:30.
Okay, yeah, I should be able to get there by then.
It's 11 or 11:30.
Citizens, what do we have with citizens?
Credit card, town credit card.
Okay.
We try not to use it because, we try not to use the town credit card for much if we can avoid it, mostly because it's less easy to track. We have to break it all out and provide weird expenses. weird receipts and stuff that aren't really receipts, but more confirmations of orders and things like that with taxes paid. And auditors don't like to see it, so we really try and avoid the town credit card where we can, but there's some things that we just, if we needed to pay a bill right away, we use the town credit card. Or also if we out, if I was out, driving somewhere and I needed gas or something like that, I might use the town credit card for that too, but only if it was town business. I don't think I've used it. Maybe I have.
And we're paying quarterly on the fire service?
Yes, yeah. She generated the bill for us for the year, and I got it, and I was like, wow, $52,000, huh? And I called Betsy and said, I think you made a mistake. She said, oh my God, she sent those bills to everybody, the one year as the quarterly payment. People, they must have known it was a mistake.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm pretty happy with our budget numbers right now. Becky and I were
good.
talking about
Sounds
stuff,
great.
and I feel pretty good about the way things are going, even all things considered. I've cut, cut where we can cut, and
Let's go. Yeah, because that's what's on everyone's mind past year. For sure.
but yeah, I mean, I'm still projecting the same tax situation that I was when we were doing the budget, which is a slight decrease.
Yeah.
Because the money that we're looking to raise by taxes, I am slightly concerned by inflationary costs and pressures, particularly of highway materials. But
It's out of our control.
Yeah,
That's
that's
not
true.
something we can cut.
we're gonna do what we can.
Oh, we have 17-cent credit, okay, cool. What's up with my pen here?
$702.
You gotta go to approve.
I will make a motion, payroll and accounts payable warning.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
702. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I will second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, Teresa.
Yes,
Thank you, guys. Are we moving back to second? What's the next meeting date?
So the other thing, I don't know if we had talked about this collectively or it was just you and I, Zach, were we ever gonna maybe propose going to one a month? Can we do that?
I talked to Teresa. It makes
It makes a ton of sense.
Feel like it makes sense too for a town our size, but
So there's a couple. So, all right. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, this is administrative business anyway, so it's not, and it's something for consideration at the next time. So,
Yeah.
or the next select board.